Hey, what's up everybody? BDO 44 coming at you another video. Alright. So, right now, as I've always tried to tell teams and GMs when we talk about basketball, you want to look for things or players rather that can give you the best return on your investment. There's a lottery pick from about 3 years ago that got into some very serious trouble, and his mental health is to be questioned. Josh Primo, allegedly, he exposed himself to the psychiatrist for the San Antonio Spurs 9 times. 9 times is a lot of times, man. Okay, let's be real. That's really obsessive stuff. If what was alleged was true, and I don't think any of it was denied after the investigation. So that's the first thing that needs to be understood. The second thing that needs to be understood is he's 20 years old right now. He was drafted as the youngest player in that draft. San Antonio Spurs took him with the 12th overall pick. Same year Cade Cunningham, Scotty Barnes, guys like that came out. He's younger than them right now. Well, he always was, obviously, but you get the point. He's a young dude who probably still has plenty of development, both on the court and clearly off the court, to deal with. His issue off the court, from what I understand, is at a point where the league is ready to suspend him 4 games. That was just announced, which is why we're having a conversation right now. Upon his signing with any team, he'll get 4-game suspension. Now that tells me that they don't think wherever he's at right now is the biggest deal in the world. Because when you see guys get 4-game suspensions, that's not like 25 and 30 games. You know what I mean? So clearly the NBA is satisfied at this point. Now, does that mean that should satisfy your mind? I don't know. I've heard a lot of people say that the NBA is a little too lenient about these type of things. Whatever the case may be, it's very clear to me 2 things. One, after watching highlights on this kid, his 3-point jump shot is smooth as it gets. I did homework on him back then. Not as much as others. I don't know that they should have took him as early as they did just because of how young he was. San Antonio was kind of doing a little too much with that pick. But and then from there, they didn't have the role for him. And since he was so young, it wasn't a big deal. So it was one of those situations where you knew he had a very smooth and natural game. The word that people used to talk about in regards to him was smooth. 3-point shot goes up effortless, comes down pretty. He's just one of those type of guys that's touched by God, no pun intended, touched in such a way that he's able to really display his 3-point shooting and his floor stretching ability. Not overly athletic, but kind of crafty. Has some good footwork. I saw in the little highlights I just watched right now. He's to be studied. You know, when you get to a point where a guy is a couple years in, you got a lot of prospects that you could put in front of him, as opposed to him being a fresh new prospect coming out of the league, coming out of high school or college or whatever it was. I think he had like 1 year in college. He's one of those guys where it's like, okay, we got to look at what he is and then look at the field of young players that are out there, the G League guys, the second-year guys, the lottery picks. You got to compare him to what's now the new state-of-the-art kids. But nevertheless, if he would have stayed in college for 3 years, he would just be a rookie this year and still have another year in college if my numbers and my math is correct, if he wanted to be a 4-year guy. So this is somebody, I don't think he's 21 right now. I don't think he's legal to drink right now, which tells me whatever his issues are can be worked through, even the ones that are so very serious off the court. Now, I do think when you talking about mental health, I'm somebody who's extremely open with mental health, probably more so than anybody you'll see on the internet. And when it comes down to mental health, it's an ongoing process that needs to be worked on, probably all lifelong, especially for what it is that he did and was accused of. This is not something that you could just say, oh, he's fine now. No, he's not. He's not. If he did that in that way, he's not okay yet. He's going to have to continue to work on his mental health for the rest of his life, deal with whatever took place or whatever's going on. I don't want to speculate, period. But with that being said, when it comes to his profession and what he could become, he may be a little too good to send to China. He may be one of those. He may be a little too good to just not play. He may be a little too good to be in the G League if he was drafted in the first round, 12th overall. Same year Cade Cunningham came out. So this is somebody that needs to be studied. I'm not going to say teams need to hurry up and pick him up. I don't know that, because if his head ain't on straight, then you definitely don't want him on your squad. If he's going to do what it is he's been alleged to do, he's going to create a lot of problems in your locker room. So he needs to not have that behavior in his arsenal anymore. That cannot take place anymore. But if he's in a space where he's in the process of getting his mental health straightened out, obviously it's been a year and some change since that took place. He's too young to give up on. That's the bottom line. He's too young to give up on, man. 10 years from now, he's going to be 30, still ready to play basketball. His career is just getting started. And his issues are likely something that can be worked on since it is so early in his life. Now, that doesn't mean that he's got it together. I'm telling you, I don't believe that that's how this works. When you got certain types of issues, you just got to continue to work on your mental health. But his game is that of someone who probably belongs in the NBA. And his upside might be somebody who has upside that, could rival guys like D'Angelo Russell. When I look at his game, he kind of reminds me of somebody who could shoot the ball like that. Very, very accurate, very, very special three-point shooting gift. There are teams out there who don't have a bench, don't have assets that they could use to really turn into anything. You talk about the Miami Heat. If they would have drafted Josh Primo and he didn't have some of these issues, assuming everything went on the up and up in Miami, which clearly it wouldn't have, but we're using this as an example. If everything would have, and they had him, he could have been somebody who could have ballooned by now into somebody they could have got to trade for Dame. You understand what I'm saying? 12th overall pick. If he turns into what he's supposed to 3 years down the road, he's valuable enough to slap next to Tyler Hero, and suddenly your pick, your trade piece package is better. So this is what I'm looking at in regards to Josh Primo. For all these teams that don't have benches, for all these teams that really are kind of dealing in circumstances of no man's land, talking about Minnesota, talking about the Brooklyn Nets, talking about the Los Angeles Clippers. You guys could really, Cleveland could use a bench guy that has upside out of this world. Y'all probably should be looking to try to see what's up with Josh Primo. Y'all should. I'm not saying you sign him, but I am saying it's time to do some studying. It's time to do some studying. Because if he goes to one of these teams like OKC, they already got all the assets in the world. He goes to Boston, they got all the assets. My team, the Lakers, you guys don't want that. I'm going to be honest with you. You're just going to further balloon what our asset class is. The rich get richer. And that's not what the NBA needs. They need balance. As we've talked about on this channel over the last 24 hours, teams are just, it's too top heavy in certain situations, especially with guards. Teams like Charlotte and OKC, Indiana, they got too many guards. And then there's teams like the Milwaukee Bucks who could really use a starting shooting guard or somebody that, they could really use certain players that ultimately are log jam in other situations. So this is how you do it. This is how you do it. And a lot of times what you want to do in these situations is go for G League guys. You want to try to get guys off the street. This is a guy who clearly is better than that. Clearly better than that. He was a first round talent 3 years ago. So if I'm the Miami Heat, homework time. Cleveland Cavaliers, homework time. Teams I've already mentioned, Clippers, homework time. Y'all need to go figure out where this kid is at mentally, figure out what he's going through, if he's been able to get the mental help that he needs, see if his game is improved. Obviously, there's been no injuries. Obviously, there's no mileage. And he's probably not even done growing. No pun intended. So these are the type of situations we're looking at to say, okay, he could turn into a gold mine for somebody. He could turn into a gold mine for somebody. This is somebody you get for as a flyer, and by the end of the season, he could be your starting point guard, starting shooting guard if he plays to his capability. Or maybe the beginning of next season, you're looking at him as one of your favorite prospects on your team, especially if you're devoid of assets. So this is how it's done, man. This is exactly how it's done. I would love to see him go to a team that has an established G League affiliate, just in case he needs to go to that. I would much rather him not be stuck on the back of a bench and then get with some coach that doesn't want to play him, and then for his mental health could go left, because clearly you don't need a guy like this in a bad situation. You need him in a very good one. I don't think he should be going back to San Antonio. That's just not a good spot. Everything went left there. He needs to go somewhere else. So, if he's good mentally, he probably should be studied basketball wise. And if you study what it is that I saw, then you clearly see he can stretch the floor. If you need shooting, this is somebody who naturally does that. He's born to do it. You don't have to teach him that. So, and he had some good playmaking highlights that I saw as well, making good passes into the interior and stuff like that from the perimeter. So, that's the thought, man. I don't allow a person's transgression, especially when they're like 19 years old, to really enter my mind. Now, if he was a 35-year-old man doing this would not be the conversation. If he were a 27-year-old man doing this would not be the conversation. But a youngster at 19 years old doing some crazy stuff, he just needs to get the help that's necessary, and then get around some mentors and some people that can help him understand all there is for him to understand. And so that's what he needs, a strong foundation, a strong coach, strong locker room that can embrace him and, you know, get the jokes out the way early, not let the stuff that's going on kind of linger over his head and mess with his confidence. But he hired a trainer, from what I understand. He's ready to work out for an NBA team. And a guy that's drafted that high with this type of cachet should be at least considered at this point, especially since there's no aging involved in this conversation. And that's key to me. If he was turning 31, I'd be like, nah, I'm cool. I'm really a little more hesitant for old guys. But young guys, oh, no. Because 3 years from now, you're going to forget all about that. Remember when Markelle Fultz had his issue with the shoulder and everybody was wondering if he's okay? Now look at Markelle Fultz. I'm telling y'all, he's going to be an all-star at some point in time. I think Markelle Fultz, if he can stop having these injuries, he's got all-star upside. Although the injuries are there, we're not talking about that. The point is, guys can overcome stuff that you thought they couldn't overcome in the moment. Oh my God, he's never going to play. He needs to be in China. He cannot shoot. Now everybody's drafting him on their fantasy team. So it's like, you know, when you're that young, I don't care what the problem is. You just need to be around the right people, get the right amount of help, the right amount of attention to what it is the issue is, and then continue to work on your craft, whatever your craft is. In this case, of course, it's basketball. So that's my thought on Josh Primo. It's time. It's time for everybody to pay attention to him. And if he's good to go, some of you teams would be wise to bring him in. So that's what I got to say. My name is BDL44. I'll thank you all for watching. I'm out.